Sir, this was a surprise to me. It's great to see you. And I know that this ride means a lot to you.
Thanks a lot. You caught us on a cold day.
Dana Perino, who was the press secretary for former President George W. Bush, is now one of the most recognizable faces on American television and a political celebrity in her own right. Perino has become even more well-known to audiences in recent years due to her appearances on talk shows and local news. But Dana Perino's real stature will make you look twice, which can come as a surprise to you. Make an effort not to freak out, because we're going to spill the beans on this news persona's stunning secret in today's video. Dana Marie Perino came into this world in Evanston, Wyoming on May 9, 1972. Her Italian great-grandparents immigrated to the United States. Therefore, she inherited that ethnicity from her father's side of the family. Perino said in an interview with Business Insider in 2017 that her father was a major influence on her interest in politics and media from an early age. She was the only third grader who expressed interest in watching Meet the Press, and she told Insider's interviewer Allison Chantel that she wanted to go home early so she could watch the show. Additionally, she elaborated on how her father instilled in her the habit of reading the Denver Post and the Rocky Mountain News every morning before he returned from work. The articles that Dana had read before supper would be discussed as soon as her father came, and this practice helped develop her critical thinking skills. Even if she was afraid to speak her mind in front of a powerful masculine figure, Perino claimed that participating in this custom gave her the courage to do just that. The self-assurance she possesses now, which she attributes to her father, was crucial to her future achievements, she says. As he grew up and attended local schools, Perino's childhood was rather typical. She attended Colorado State University to earn a degree in mass communication after graduating from Denver's Ponderosa High School. On top of her responsibilities at KTSC, TVC, and KCYM, Perino was a member of her university's forensics team, all while she was pursuing her degree. Perino had a liberal arts degree with a concentration in mass communication and a double minor in Spanish and politics. She then went on to get a master's degree in public affairs from the University of Illinois Springfield, continuing her pursuit of higher education. Given her background and connections, it's puzzling how she rose from being a recent college grad to a powerful player in the Oval Office. When asked directly, Dana Perino said she never saw herself serving under the president. The course of her life was irrevocably altered by an event that altered her outlook on news reporting. She discussed her aspirations to become a local news reporter and her love of covering politics in the same 2017 interview with Business Insider. Even though she didn't identify as completely conservative, she was taken aback by her desire to highlight Republicans and conservatives. In an interview with Chantel, Perino expressed his amazement at what he perceived as a systemic prejudice in the media against conservatives and Republicans. "I never considered myself a conservative. I can understand arguments on both sides and am not overly ideologically divided. Nevertheless, I became aware of it when I began to hear things that I felt were so unjust." That certainly played a role, but the main reason she left her position as a local news reporter was simply that she was unable to handle the pressure. There was a huge mountain to climb, and she knew it would be difficult to climb the corporate ladder. She was out of luck because the network was full of males who had been there for years and made pitiful salaries. The fact that Perino couldn't even bring herself to invade someone's privacy in order to acquire a story made it much worse. She distinctly remembers being asked to interview and cover a mother whose 2-year-old had been murdered by a friend. Even though she had already circled the courthouse twice, she finally decided not to interview the woman there. Returning to the newsroom, Perino confessed that she was unable to complete the task and contacted her father. Fortunately, her father understood and supported her decision to return home. She resided in her parents' basement for a period, working as a waitress. The associations she joined while pursuing her master's degree were beneficial since they allowed her to network, which is crucial in her field. During that time, she covered news in both the Illinois capital and her affiliate stations, CBS and WCIA. Her career took off once she obtained a pivotal position as Congressman Scott McInnes's staff assistant in Washington, D.C., while she had previously only answered phones. Dan Schaefer, who would go on to head the House Commerce Subcommittee on Energy and Power, had previously employed her as his press secretary. In 1998, after Schaefer resigned, Perino moved to the United Kingdom. However, her stay in the UK was brief, since she returned to Washington 3 years later, in 2001. Once again, she found herself engaged by the Department of Justice, where she served for the subsequent 2 years as their spokesman. After then, her career took off like a rocket, since she was appointed to the position of Associate Director of Communications for the Council on Environmental Quality, CEQ, by the White House shortly after. But tragedy would have to strike before Perino could achieve one of her greatest acting roles. Andy Card, who was the Chief of Staff for the White House at the time of the tragic 9/11 attacks, appointed her to the position of Associate Director of Communications for the CEQ shortly after the events. Finally, after 3 years on the job, Tony Snow resigned as press secretary for President Bush to concentrate on his battle with colon cancer. On March 27, 2005, Perino was appointed deputy press secretary and served in that capacity until April 30, 2007. From September 2007 to the conclusion of Bush's tenure in January 2009, Perino was officially named as assistant to the President and White House press secretary after it became evident that Snow's illness left him unable for work. Notwithstanding her many accomplishments, Dana Perino will be forever associated with one event: the shoe-throwing incident in Baghdad on December 14, 2008. While President Bush managed to avoid both shoes thrown at him by Montadar al-Zayed during a news conference, Perino was the unfortunate target of the incident, hurting her eye on a microphone stand as aides rushed to apprehend al-Zayed. After Bush's presidency ended, Perino looked for other opportunities and eventually found work as a political analyst for Fox News. Another chat program she co-hosted was The Five. Just before the year came to a close, she was nominated for a position on the Broadcasting Board of Governors, a worldwide broadcasting institution formally formed in June 2010 by the United States government. In May 2012, Perino made an appearance on Jeopardy! As part of Power Players Week, in addition to her political activity. In the same year, she started teaching political communications to part-time students at George Washington University. She took over as editorial director of Random House's Crown Publishing Group in 2013. After that, Perino became a staple on Fox News. She and political analyst Chris Stierwalt co-hosted the podcast Perino and Stierwalt, which premiered in 2016. Following the 2020 presidential election and the dismissal of her co-host, the weekly limited series gained a large audience. In addition to her own podcast, Perino filled in as a guest host on Gutfeld, the late-night talk program on Fox News that was formerly hosted by Greg Gutfeld. She did this until 2023. In preparation for the 2024 elections, she launched a new podcast that year on Fox News Radio called Perino on Politics. For Fox Business's second GOP presidential primary debate, she was also chosen to moderate with Stuart Varney and Ilia Calderon. Chris Christie was the sole contender to accept Perino's offer to write down the name of someone to off the island during the debate. However, he did not reveal whose candidate he chose. Along with other contenders, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis deemed the question rude and rejected it. Perino first crossed paths with Peter McMahon in August 1997. After a short courtship, they tied the knot in 1998, and have been a married couple ever since. Despite the lack of offspring, Perino did take care of Jasper, a Vizsla dog. She discussed the adoption of their new Vizsla, Percy, on Fox News after Jasper passed away in 2021. And the good news was Perino's second book, published on April 26, 2016, which is something that few people know. She discusses her experiences as a woman in a male-dominated field and the lessons she learned during her time in the White House in it. She emphasizes the need of young women establishing ties early on. She herself maintained relationships long before the rise of social media, sending Christmas postcards for the sake of staying in touch, rather than seeking favors. During the 9/11 attacks, she utilized these ties to her advantage by contacting a friend of hers who worked for Acting Attorney General John Ashcroft at the Justice Department. All probes were handled by the Justice Department because the Department of Homeland Security hadn't yet been constituted. Inquiring about her potential relocation to Washington, D.C., and role as team spokeswoman for the government, her acquaintance gave her a call a few days later. Although Perino's tenure in the White House will live on in legend, she came dangerously close to quitting on her first day. She stated that Chief of Staff Josh Bolten had instructed everyone to notify him if they were overwhelmed with work, so that the appropriate individuals could be assigned the task, saying, "That's what the president wanted." As press secretary, Perino did an excellent job, remained steadfast, and served the whole term. Not prioritizing her health care is her one regret. Throughout her 2.5 years as deputy press secretary, she worked long hours, neglected her spouse, and frequently felt weary. Ed Gillespie, director of communications, informed her the president wanted her to be press secretary on the day she was due to leave, but she still contemplated departing before the official appointment. Thankfully, everything came together, and Perino finished her tasks without a hitch. Gillespie was startled when, years later, she disclosed she had nearly resigned. Aside from her incredible work record and beautiful appearance, Dana Perino's towering stature stunned many observers and became the subject of much discussion. A photo of Perino with Karine Jean-Pierre, the current press secretary of the White House, recently went viral. Perino made an impression during Bush's presidency, and at 27 years old, Jean-Pierre is the youngest press secretary in history. Both ladies are remarkable. Unlike many of her predecessors, Jean-Pierre has a strong relationship with President Biden, which Perino highlighted in an interview with the Daily Mail as one of her greatest strengths. The value of having contacts in one's field has long been stressed by Perino, and she is beginning to see the fruits of Jean-Pierre's labor. Aside from this, Perino was quite pleased with the present secretary and thought highly of her because of her maturity and insight. Perino has been spending a lot of time with Jean-Pierre recently. In fact, she even shared a group photo with the two of them standing side by side. But the attention of the internet was mostly on how little Perino appeared in comparison. Even though Perino is just 5 feet tall, Jean-Pierre, who is 5 feet 4 inches tall, just over the typical American woman, still towered over her. It's very different from Perino's public demeanor on television. Despite being shorter than most of her classmates, she is a fearless fighter who never allows her height be an obstacle. She went so far as to describe a pep talk Tony Snow, who was around 6 feet 7 inches tall, gave her while she was his assistant. Snow told her she was more capable than she had realized of handling the role of press secretary. Because of it, she never let herself be frightened by those who were taller than her. As a small woman, Perino frequently draws attention to her height, which the Fox News show Short Questions plays up. Fortunately, she understands how to take jokes in stride. On Gutfeld, she is frequently the target of jokes for her towering height. Despite his obvious height advantage, she posted a selfie of herself in 2017 standing next to Rupert Murdoch. Even more so in 2020, when the globe came to a standstill due to the COVID-19 epidemic, Perino had to pull herself together as a working actress, since she is always on camera and must look her best. Despite the lack of interaction, a large number of individuals embraced harmful habits. In an interview with Philadelphia magazine, Perino, who was 48 years old at the time, discussed her fitness routine. She stressed the importance of exercising every day to deal with stress and hard workloads. During the peak of the epidemic, she started to prioritize her health more than ever before. She started stretching and yoga to combat the harmful effects of screen time and paid close attention to her posture. Meditation has many health advantages, and Perino is no exception. She says she meditates every day before supper or whenever she can fit it into her schedule.